Now, talking about a challenge, um, if you can recall, I'm kind of curious. Do you remember the Mariners' Mile Fire at all, or when Castaway's restaurant burned down, or the Rendezvous Ballroom?
I remember the two Rendezvous Ballroom fires. It burned down twice. And yeah, we can see the flames coming up over there.
Because your house was right across the bay.
Yeah.
Can you describe the first time you saw that fire in the 30s?
No, just that it was kind of scary. There's a fire over there, and the fire alarm went off. And I never was in the Rendezvous Ballroom. Never went there.
Really?
I was never much of a dancer.
Do you were you ever kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Were you ever impacted by the amount of dancers that came down there to dance, like during Bow Week or something like that?
I don't think so. And my uncle had this ranch up in Northern California, and we went up and spent Easter week with them every year. So I missed Bow Week. And sometimes I've said, gee, I really missed out on all the fun. But, I was too young to do much with girls in those days anyway, so I didn't really miss out.
Do you remember all the gambling joints in Balboa Village during the 50s and 60s?
No.
Did you ever see any like FBI agents carrying away like gambling machines or anything like that?
No.
No. Do you remember going to the fun zone as a kid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What did you used to do there, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, there was the skee ball, and there was, of course, the merry-go-round, and I think the skee ball was probably the thing that I did them all. And then there were the pinball machines. And one night a pinball machine got stuck, and you didn't have to put more money into it to play it again. And I played that for a long time.
Did you used to go there a lot with your friends?
Well, not an awful lot, but we were over there occasionally. You see, we were mostly on the island, and it was a sort of an excursion to go over to Balboa. We went to the theater there and saw, I've seen some of the great classics there.
Outside of Balboa Theater? I mean, in the Balboa
It was called the Ritz in those days. And we saw Captains Courageous, and of course, The Wizard of Oz, and Rebecca. I think I saw Gone with the Wind over there too.
Wow. Do you recall ever seeing any movies being shot in Newport Beach? For example, maybe John Wayne's World War II movie called Sands of Iwo Jima?
I know they were shot, and it was going on around there from time to time. I don't remember ever seeing any of it myself. Jimmy Cagney was kind of big in yachting there. He gave a trophy that was a perpetual trophy year after year. People were after the Cagney trophy. And
did you ever have any interaction with Mr. Cagney on the island?
No, even though he had that little island on the end.
So
actually, I don't know as I ever saw a Cagney movie, but just recently I saw a short clip of Bob Hope and Jimmy Cagney doing a tap dance routine together that was just unbelievable, and they were so good. I'd like to watch it over and over again.
Wow.
It was really fun to see that.
Wow. I'm actually in a band with a 92-year-old tap dancer, so I have to ask him if he used to tap dance with Bob Hope now, Mr. Cagney.
Well, when I was in the third grade, there was a little girl in the other third grade that took tap dance lessons. And every month or two, she'd come in and give us a little recital. And that just fascinated me, what she was doing with her feet. And so I looked in the catalog, and Newport Beach gave a tap dance class in the recreation session. And I said, well, they can't but throw me out. So I went. They didn't throw me out because they liked the money. And it was just me and 8 girls. And I took tap dance lessons for several years, and it was a lot of fun. And in the end, I got to actually be on stage giving a performance at the auditorium in Harbor High School, where I used to be just the stage technician that turned the lights on and off. And it was very nice.
That's really cool.
And I recommend tap dancing to anybody who feels they'd like to try it. It's fun.
Get your feet moving.
And we did river dance, one of our performances. River dance is not a difficult dance. What's difficult is for 60 people to all do it at exactly the same time, which we didn't.
Now, growing up on the island, do you remember the island flooding at all?
Oh, yes.
Can you describe some of those experiences? Like, did you have to sandbag your front door, or
No, our house was built up, so we didn't have that problem. Some of the lower ones did get their floors flooded. And it was a high tide southeast wind. In it came and just filled the island up like a bathtub. And of course the tide only stays high for an hour or two, and then it goes down. And there's that bathtub sitting there. So they went around with sledgehammers and broke the seawall so the water could get out. And all the water ran out. And guess what happened next morning? It flooded 2 days in a row before they got enough sandbags to get everything packed up so it didn't flood again. And I remember that it was a family kind of crisis. My younger brother, Seymour, who was Man of the Year a year or two ago here, was a baby then, and he had an earache, got an infected ear, and that was the morning of the flood. And the family was all busy scurrying around trying to take care of things, and he and I just climbed into bed together, and I made a hot water bottle and had him lay his head on the hot water bottle. And my mother repeatedly told me later that was exactly the right thing to do. Good boy, good boy. And the doctor had to come from someplace and lance the ear later on to let the pressure out. And the place was just all chaos then. The water had receded, and we were trying to cope with things. And I think the doctor probably took pity on us, charged a very low fee for coming and lancing the ear. But
do you have any memories with your...
I want to finish that one.
Sorry.
There's one more to that.
Please.
Seymour, of course, was miserable during the day and cried and finally got it lanced, and oh boy, what a relief. But he was really tired. And that night he didn't want to go to bed. Dad carried him. And Dad would carry him, and then finally try to lay him down someplace. Dad remembered the piteous way in which Seymour would say, "Go walk, go walk." And they would go walk some more. And another 20 minutes he'd try to land. Well, this went on for several hours. And I've heard my dad repeat that phrase. Well, it came home to me a few times that I had to walk with my children when there was something going on. And I knew what Dad meant. I'm a crybaby. I cry very easily.
No problem, please. That's why we have those. So you were really close with your father?
No, that was one of the things I cry about. I never really got to know my father. We were always on our good behavior around each other. We neither ever heard the other one tell a dirty joke. I tell all kinds of dirty jokes to my brothers and my friends, but not to my father. Never any show of anything like that from him. And when he died, and there were some nice obituaries in the papers, and somebody saw someone brought him in at work. They passed around where I worked. And a number of remarks were passed to the general effect of, well, gee, if he was so distinguished, how come you're such a nothing? I could feel it from my coworkers because I was just an ordinary engineer, designed computers for 40 years. Now they're getting their revenge on me. Oh, God, all that software. Terrible, terrible. But I wish I'd got to know Dad better. But I did do some things that won his heart. He was one of the directors of the Bank of Balboa. They had a little bank there in Balboa, handle our local business. Well, some idiot started the story around the bank was going to go broke. You better get your money out. And there was a run on the bank, and of course they didn't have enough cash in the till that day to pay everybody off. The bank had to close its doors. It was bankrupt. Well, when they finally, the bank examiners came and made a big to-do about it. And in the end, the bank had more than enough money to pay everybody off. It was carefully managed. It was in the black. But by the time the bank examiners charged it for examining it and making their inspection, then it was in the red because they'd used up all the money it had, all the surplus. And they sent a letter around to all the depositors telling them how these irresponsible, careless directors had wasted their money and how bad it was. And Dad took that on. He came up with a response just really chewing out the Board of Bank Examiners for the way they talked and the way they behaved. And for some reason, all I can remember of that is that the name of the guy who wrote this letter for the Board of Bank Examiners, his name was Friend. Somebody or other Friend. And I guess he wasn't very popular because somebody up in Sacramento said, "Hey, I hear you're ripping into Friend. Good for you. Keep it up." But when the bank folded its doors, it was, of course, a great blow to him. They had what they called the Irish dividend in those days, that the directors personally were held responsible for the losses. So it hit him personally. And he came home and was talking with Mother about it and was very depressed. Well, I was only 4 years old or so, but I understood it was some problem about money. So I went and got my piggy bank, and I came in and said, "I've got some money, Joey." "Well, what can you think of more calculated to reach right in and grab your father's heart than that?" It wasn't my idea to be friends with my father, just trying to help out. And there was some mention about how they met and got married. Well, the story I heard was about playing the violin at the garden party. But just a couple of weeks ago, I got a letter from Seymour's son, who lives up in Mill Valley now, and he is going to organize a hike up Mount Tamalpais, because he has the story that Joe and Carol met on a hike up Mount Tamalpais. And that was where they met and fell in love, and if it hadn't been for that hike, we wouldn't any of us be here now, and there are quite a few progeny. And so he's going to stage a memorial hike, and we're all invited up there February 18th and climb Mount Tamalpais. Well, I'd never heard anything about Mount Tamalpais before. I don't know where he got that story, and I'll have to ask him. Because what I heard was
Violin.
Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto.
Interesting.
And that is kind of fixed in my mind because I think I heard that story a weekend when I was home from college. And the following week at dinner in college, and we were all meeting, in our dorm, maybe 4 of us around a table. And one of the ones at the table I was at began trying to be funny, making fun of some romantic thing, and he had the hero falling in love with the heroine because of the way she played Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto on her violin. And if I hadn't known there was no way he could have been at Balboa Island the previous weekend, hiding in the basement listening to our family conversation, he couldn't be doing this to make fun of me. But, well, I must have been turning very red. It was a powerful experience to have that happen. And so I'm very sure that that's the way I heard that story, because it was so impressed on me by that episode the following week. When I went away to college, I had to take chemistry as a freshman. We all did. I was lucky. I was in the days when Linus Pauling personally gave the freshman chemistry lectures twice a week, because he was writing his book on elementary chemistry, and we were the guinea pigs he was trying it out on to get it the way he wanted it. So I got a lot of exposure to Linus Pauling personally. The only man who has ever got 2 entire Nobel Prizes.
Oh.
Nobody else ever got that. They got 1 3/4, but nobody else has got 2. And then we had sections, of course, and 10 or 20 of us would have an instructor that we'd do the homework and things. And my section instructor was a brilliant graduate student from Cornell named Jerry Donahue, who had come out here to work under the great Linus Pauling. And so guys kidded him, well, what do you do for your research, Mr. Donahue? Well, I measure X-ray diffraction patterns trying to compute the interatomic distances. So every few weeks it'd be, well, Mr. Donahue, any more interatomic distances lately? No, not this week. If you get the Crick and Watson paper in which they announce that double helix that we're all designed out of, there's a footnote in which the authors express their appreciation for the help and cooperation of Dr. Jerry Donahue, who supplied the interatomic distances that made the work possible.
Wow.
I was there. That was the Jerry Donahue that had to flunk me in freshman chemistry.
Wow. Talk about it.
Which I took over again and passed.
But you actually got to at least take a class from the man.
I got a what?
You got to take a class from the man. You took his course.
Oh, yeah. And I guess the other distinguishing thing about my life, as World War II and the draft approached, I went to the California Maritime Academy, a training school for merchant marine officers. And it kept me there long after the war was over, and I'd have done better off to get drafted. But we had a training ship, which we took on a cruise. I got to steer a 400-foot ship through the Panama Canal.
Wow.
Because the year before, when second-classmen had helm duty as the ordinary cruising thing, and I was a second-classman, and I was at the helm one night coming down the California coast, and it was calm, and the gyro compass repeater was not clicking to show that we were swinging either way. We were just on course. And I was just standing there at parade rest behind the wheel. And the officer of the watch presently said, "Beek?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Are you awake?" "Yes, sir." "You're not steering." "We're on course, sir." "Have it right in a groove, do you?" "Yes, sir." Well, apparently he remembered that, because the next year, when he was assigned the job of putting out the list of where we were all going to go during the docking process, he put me at the helm. And that was why I got to steer the ship through the Panama Canal. So I've been grateful to him all the rest of my life. I can say, oh, I steered a ship through the Panama Canal.
And this was as you were a merchant mariner?
well, training to be. I eventually got a license as third mate, any ocean, any tonnage, which expired after 5 years. And my daughter worked for the Coast Guard in the business of passing out those licenses to people.
Nice.
Oh, wait. Talk about an irony. Oh, my gosh. Now, do you have any memories of actually going out on the water with your father?
Well, yeah, we had, it was actually a 30-foot speedboat that had a couple of cabins put on it, which he called the Vamos, We Go. And he used to go to Catalina and Santa Cruz and San Clemente Island, and I went on some of those excursions.
Do you have any unique memories from those times? Or anything that stands out as an experience? Fishing, swimming?
Well, I mentioned that there were the cousins who were double cousins. One of them, well, Uncle Harry lived on Balboa Island. The oldest on the other side lived there, and some of his kids were older than I, but Cousin Nibby I liked very much, and he and I were quite compatible, and he was along on one of those trips, and he and I were, we rode in and were ashore on the beach at Catalina, and we were walking along, went around a corner kind of to another cove, and that cove had a lot of sea lions on the beach. Well, when they saw us coming, they didn't like it. They went off into the water, and so we were sorry to disturb them, but we went on, and suddenly, way off up in the canyon, there was a great big bull sea lion. And he hadn't known that we were coming till we got halfway across the beach, and then he saw us, and he headed straight for the water, but that meant heading straight for us. And we thought perhaps he had aggressive tendencies, and we really ran in a hurry. But he just went right straight on into the water. So that was an impressive memory.
Do you have any memories of interacting with any of the seals in the harbor growing up or anything like that?
Yes, there was one that got
a nickname?
A bone stuck in his throat, I think, and got sick. And he appeared and would come most days and just sit there and be sick on one of the floats around the ferry. And we all came and, well, you might say we befriended him. We tried to. He wasn't feeling very friendly. I think he was feeling chiefly sick. And finally, some guys, and I didn't see it, I wasn't there for the process, but some of the older men put on big gloves, and somebody grabbed him, and somebody else reached down his throat and got this fish bone out, and he recovered, went away.
Went away, so he didn't stick around to say thanks.
No, he didn't have a lot of friends he was going to come back and pal with, no.
Well, Allan, I would like to say thank you for your time here today. It was fun to hear about your life story and to kind of learn some very personal, moments of your life that I think are very important.
Well, they're not Newport Beach history. They're just my own personal history.
Well, your personal history does interact with our town, and it is a part of our history.
It's very relatable.
Very relatable. Well,
my dad gave me this belt I'm wearing right now.
Huh.
That belt buckle has been in intimate contact with the top of Mount Rainier.
Whoa.
Because the crampons got tangled on my feet as I reached the top, and I fell flat on my face across the top of Mount Rainier, and this buckle was right on the top.
Huh.
Wow.
And so I still wear that belt, and Dad gave me a VW Bug for a gift in 1961. It was new, and I'm still driving it.
So it's out in the parking lot right now?
It's out in the parking lot.
Oh, I'm going to have to take a picture of that. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, I've got pictures of it. I'm now painted bright yellow. It's a yellow I'm very proud of. And I got a license number that I'm very proud of. 1234 ETC. And I've been one-upped. Guy went by me flying an ABCDETC. He got 5 in a row.
Good for him. Wow. Well, Thank you, Allan. We really appreciate it.
And I want to take one more minute.
Please, please. Talk
I
as
went
much as you want.
To UCI, the first year it was there, when it opened up, 1965 and 66, and took some graduate math courses. And they let me have a teaching assistantship. I taught calculus and statistics. And in my calculus class, along toward the end of the year, June 1966, here came a paper, 6666. How about that, Mr. Beek? So, of course, I wrote on it, the question is, where will you be and where will I be on 7777? And where we were was we had dinner together. And she and her husband and my wife and I had dinner together on 8/8/88 and on 9/99.
What?
And as January 1st, 2011 approached, I wrote to them up in Morro Bay where they'd moved and said, we're going to be together on New Year's. And her husband responded, she died of sudden cancer last October.
But with what an amazing actual intimate story about you basically becoming one of the first teachers at UCI, and then having just a remarkable friendship come from that.
Yeah.
That's really special, Allan. That's really...
Well, one of the students in that statistics class, 42 years later, I was up in Sacramento testifying about something, and here was this guy who's a deputy attorney for the county of Los Angeles, and he heard me give my name, and he came up and nailed me afterwards in the hall. So I was in that statistics class you taught at UCI in 1967.
See,
Wow.
you say that a lot of these stories don't relate to Newport Beach, but you know that's not what I hear or what I see, and I know that's my perspective. But Allan, your family and yourself, you have had a giant impact on our town, and
Well, Dad had quite an impact.
yeah, but by extension, you have had yourself.
You've touched a lot of lives.
Yeah,
A lot of
I've
lives.
had a lot of fun, but I don't think it's impacted Newport much. Well, in 2000, I wrote and pushed and shepherded Greenlight. The amendment to the city charter said a vote of the people is required for any major amendment to the general plan. I was proud of that line. That's a short, simple line, and it gets the essence of what it was. And we passed it. And the Catholic Church said vote no. The Episcopal Church said vote no. 6 former mayors said vote no. Bill Ficker said vote no. The Daily Pilot said vote no. The Orange County Register said vote no. The LA Times said vote no. $750,000 of campaign spending said vote no. And the people voted yes, 2-1.
wow. See, and you say you have no impact.
Yeah,
You just-
wow.
The Pilot named me the Newsmaker of the Year
Wow.
in 2000.
Oh.
And when I was out getting the signatures to get it on the ballot, one lady signed on September 3rd, 1999. And I said, gee, September 3rd, that's just 60 years since World War II started. She said, you're wrong. I'm from Poland.
Ooh.
She said, the Germans invaded on September 1st. It took 3 days for the British and the French to get around to declaring war. So I stand corrected.
Wow.
Wow.
Is she still alive by chance?
I don't know. I didn't notice what name she signed. I didn't keep in touch. I have met a lady over at Oasis who was born on the same day I was born.
Over in Poland?
Pardon?
Over in Poland?
I didn't catch it.
No, not in Poland though. She wasn't born in Poland.
No. This is somebody else.
Okay.
And my 18th birthday I enjoyed. That was on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's nice. I'm not going to live long enough to see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again.
Yeah, even I might not do that. That's still about 4 years away. But thank you, Allan. I really appreciate your time today. Unfortunately, my camera is about to die. But we would love to sit here and keep talking to you.
Well, I love to pontificate, but don't get me started in all my theories about economics and politics.
Oh,